If you clicked on this video, I'm going to assume that you're looking for the Megabites in Super Paper Mario. Well, today is your lucky day because I have went through several forum posts and talked with a few individuals as to where on earth all of them could be. Let's get into it, shall we? Well, not quite yet. I do need to address a few things about Megabites that are technically correct, but technically wrong at the same time. A few of them regard how the thing spawns in the first place and how you actually trigger them and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to actually know where they're located, you can skip to this timestamp on the screen. If you want to know more about how Megabites operate in terms of a gameplay perspective, this is the part of the video to watch. Generally speaking, a Megabite appears after 3 to 5 minutes of idle gameplay, which is when you're not using Mario or any of the other characters to move around, you're just standing still in a particular area. The general rule of thumb is that you have to wait about 3 to 5 minutes. I have got shorter times and I have got longer times, but generally it is a good average to wait for, even though that is not entirely true. Sometimes you can just get it a lot quicker. I have done it a few times when I was recording footage for this video, actually. Another thing about that is that sometimes you also have to meet other conditions for them to spawn. First of all, it doesn't always mean that they're gonna come as you're being idle. Sometimes that does happen, sometimes it doesn't, and if it does not, it's likely because of two things. One, apparently it's gonna wait for the character to move. I don't understand how that works. And number two, the player has to be in a specific part of the room for them to trigger, which is a little weird. To be more specific, imagine there is a trigger somewhere in the room that allows him to actually spawn in, but sometimes you have to at least walk through it in order for him to spawn. So if you waited about 5 minutes and he hasn't showed up and you're still moving around, sometimes you have to go to that trigger in order for the Megabite to actually spawn. Anyway, that's about it for disillusions. Now let's go into the good stuff. Where on earth are they? The first two can be found in Chapter 1-3. One of them can be found near the red palm tree, and the other one can be found near the rock with the arrow on it. The next location is the second room in Chapter 1-4, the one with the fireball and the buzzy beetles. The next Megabite hunting ground is literally just the end of Chapter 2-1. All you need to do is just stand in the area with the star block and you should be good. And also, you can go to the next location immediately after by hitting the star block and getting into the next level. The next location is literally outside of Merly's mansion. The next location is in Chapter 3-1 near the 2 red pipes. Gotta just wait there and then he comes in. The next two can be found in Chapter 3-4. One of them is right outside Fort Francis where you first entered the chapter, and the second one is in the room with the patrol meows and the hanging doors. Chapter 4-2 has our next two Megabites. One is in the room with the porta potty, which is the very first area, and then the one which is right outside Blappy's house. The next location is in the second room of 5-1. A lot of times people would say you have to stand right up the first hill, but I don't think that necessarily matters. It just usually happens to be the spot. Then there are two in 5-2. The first one is in the first area by the pipes. You can do this while you're underwater, or you can just do this above the water. The second location is in the room with the fire tablets. I would not recommend being with the fire tablets would be if you're going to go for this Megabite, because it tends to spawn in the main level. So if you plan on catching it pretty quickly, I would not recommend being down there, just be above ground. Now the next chapter is 7-4, but I want to get into a weird side note real quick, is that in the fanon wiki for Super Paper Mario, there is an entry that says that they spawn in the flipside pit of 100 trials. I don't believe this because the logic there makes zero sense. If someone can prove to me that a Megabite spawns in the pit of 100 trials, specifically the flipside one, please let me know. This is interesting, but I have no way of checking. Anyway, as for Chapter 7-4, this is a very unique case when it comes to any of the other Megabite locations, is that this is a conditional Megabites. Now what I mean by conditional is that there's a weird little line in the over there page for the Mario Wiki that says that once you defeat Bone Chill, all the enemy spawns except for the Ghoul Shroom and the Gigabite, which is a variant of the Megabite, they will no longer work. Meaning that, including the Megabite, all of the enemies just do not spawn, including the Megabite. Did I mention that the Megabite does not spawn once you beat Bone Chill? And those are all of the Megabite locations. Before I end the video, I do want to give a couple of shoutouts. The first one is to Conocido Mundial, I think that's how you pronounce it, for making another video on this with a couple of locations I have basically missed. And then I also want to give a shout out to that one, the Owl House fan, because he basically was the motivation to make this video specifically, because an old one of mine is clearly out of date, even though it was like the only one that was pretty accurate to finding these things in the first place. And anyway, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and if you want to stick around, okay, fine. I don't really have much going on here right now. Yeah, bye.